welcome to another great episode of Plug Talk Sports. I'm joined by the great Giancarlo. Welcome aboard. Of course, Daniel is not here. He's on a trip right now to Orlando for some reason in the middle of the night. Can't imagine driving right now in this, dark atmosphere in Florida, especially with no roads on the side. But, we're here to talk about sports and a lot of things happening right now from, NCAA football, NBA draft. Kyrie Irving, actually some breaking news has broke about Kyrie Irving as well, but we'll go into that later on into this draft. So, Giancarlo, let's first off start it off how we usually do start it off. The best and bad beats. So what was the best thing that's happened to you so far this week?
I would have to say that the best thing that's happened would have to be Aaron Judge's performance this past weekend against the Astros. Even though the Yankees did split the series 2-2, he did hit the walk-off single in the first game. And then he hit the walk-off home run in yesterday's game, and he settled for $19 million for this 1 year, and then after this year he should be getting a new contract. Hopefully, the Yankees, the message to you: pay the man his money. Pay the man his money.
No, they need to pay him. Because the Yankees are on fire right now, and speaking, I'm gonna stick with New York teams right now. The best thing, walk-off homer. Marlins over the Mets. We didn't get swept this series. Yeah. We didn't get swept. So I'm telling you right now, the Marlins are on the come up. They're on the come up right now. So, I got to say, besides the fact the game wasn't on, Bally Sports, was on Peacock this time. So I couldn't really get to see besides the highlight. It's probably the best thing to not get swept at home. So probably my best thing. But what is your worst thing of the week? Worst thing of the week.
Man. I guess it would have to be the Tampa Bay Lightning losing Game 6. I wanted them to at least make it a Game 7 to put the pressure on the Avalanches, but you can't win them all. It would have been nice to see a three-peat. But
true. But we haven't seen a three-peat since the early 2000 Lakers and the Lightning. We're from South Florida. Come on. The Panthers got it next year.
You think?
Hey, they got the second best odds to win the cup next year, plus 900. So I'm telling you, it's a real possibility. Vegas thinks so.
Okay, if you say so.
All right. But for me personally, the worst thing I probably have to say in my mind was definitely Archie Manning choosing Texas over Florida or UM or any of the schools in Florida, which I'm like, man, he didn't even stay in his home state. He went to Texas, who's going to be a new SEC team soon, so he'll get the top competition.
Yeah.
But that makes no sense to me. Probably the worst thing I've seen because despite the fact that the Gators haven't really won much in 2023 class, it's only the beginning of it. But we'll go into that actually. That's one of our talking points later on in this podcast today. But let's go straight into starting off with the NBA. The NBA draft was last Thursday, and we saw some, incredible picks coming out from obviously the Orlando Magic getting the number one pick for I believe the Italian Paolo Banchero out of Duke, Jabari Smith out of Auburn. I actually seen him play in person. I was really surprised he went number 3. I thought it was going to be number 1. But besides that, we saw the New York Knicks made a bunch of trades. We saw that Danny Green got shipped out, I believe, to Memphis. Giancarlo, what's your reaction from the draft?
From the beginning, before the drafting started, from what I saw in the college season, I knew that Paolo Banchero, however you pronounce his last name, was going to be number 1 because it's just how much the media was pushing him, and obviously it being Coach K's last season, and then making it almost to the end, But I thought Jabari Smith was going to be either 1 or 2.
Oh,
but I think he went 3, right? Number 3.
Yeah, number 3 to Houston.
Man, I don't know, man.
I just don't know. To me personally, I thought Jabari was the best player out of this draft class. But then again, I thought Chet Holmgren, tall guy, at least shot blocker. But everyone talks about the weight on him. Sure, the kid's skinny. I don't know if you've seen him walk around. He looks like a twig out there. But I think 2 years in the NBA is definitely going to build him up. Look at Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I agree.
Same builds. You could probably argue not going to be the same caliber player, obviously, but it could be a situation where Chet easily bulks up.
I think Chet for don't know what the hell happened here. I from when I saw Chet play, I was impressed. I wasn't. I think he's a tiny bit overrated. That's just me.
Okay.
A little bit overrated, but he could. The size does matter because if you play with somebody like Embiid, the size is always in the way is gonna matter, and he's just gonna get bullied down. And obviously that's what happens usually with Kevin Durant, and what happened with Antetokounmpo when he was a little skin and bones.
No, yeah.
But
Plus, not even that. I mean, plus Anthony Davis. I remember when he was coming out.
mhm,
Kentucky went to the USA team. I think it was like
right, that,
2012. I mean,
I
he was skinny
think
too.
so.
Yeah, he was skinny. He was wide, but he was like skinny. He was scrawny. So I feel like
Was he? Was he? I thought he was a little bit like. You think he was like a Ben Simmons? He was built, but not too beefy. That's what I.
okay. Let's calm down. Ben Simmons had like the broad shoulders, LeBron comparisons because he hit the gym at LSU. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I don't know. But I mean, and also keeping, of course, we are a South Florida
Hmm.
podcast, so we have to keep it with the Miami Heat right now. The lone draft pick for the Miami Heat. And I mean, every single time I look at his name, I'm always thinking about an MVP caliber player. How do you even say it? Nikola Jokic. All right, you got to make sure you don't say Jokic because they could rolls off the tongue different now because of the Denver Nuggets star center. But I mean,
Jovic.
what's your take on him?
I saw his highlights. He looked pretty good. Um, he looks like he can shoot. He can make some plays. Obviously, he needs to, I think, beef up a little bit. Get some because
A little more, a
the
little
Heat like
more.
to be the Heat like to play physical, so he's gonna have to bulk up.
No, that is true though. And not even that, I was also looking at some of his history. I mean, went professional, 13 years old, sounded like someone we know already. Played in the EuroLeague, I believe Real Madrid as well, like somebody we know already in the NBA. And then
Hmm.
somebody's Luka Doncic. So, I mean, what are we
Yeah,
talking about? Half price Luka right now in the Miami Heat's roster? I mean, he's going to be wearing number 5, man. I mean, if you ask me, I would not be surprised to see him get some good minutes. Maybe 10 minutes on the court here and there. But the summer, I mean, because California Classic, who the Miami Heat usually play against the Kings, Lakers, and all that stuff. I mean, we'll
yeah,
be seeing him go against Scottie Pippen Jr. If I'm
true.
not mistaken.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we
yeah,
might see some, one-on-one action right now between a Scottie Pippen and a Miami Heat future great. Hopefully, of course,
and
hopefully.
Sharif O'Neal.
Oh yeah, Sharif. No, not even that. I remember the Miami Heat wanted him on a workout. I mean, I'm really I'm glad he went to the Lakers. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Father, proud. Probably he's even connected with the organization of his historic Shaquille O'Neal dad. But I mean, Shaq and the Miami Heat. I mean, there's also history there. Not a three-P history, but there's also history. You thought that
yeah.
maybe, we could do some recruiting.
What I was kind of disappointed. I mean, he did get picked up by the Pistons, but
Hmm.
my boy Cameron McGusty from
Ah,
he got
yeah.
picked up with the Pistons, but he wasn't drafted. And so was Charlie Moore. Same thing with the Pistons. But I think he was an all ACC team, one of the best offensive players in college. He took him to the University of Miami's first ever Elite Eight, and I'm like, he's a senior, so he has experience. He can shoot mid range and three. He can take it to the basket. And yet he wasn't drafted in either the first or second round. So I was kind of surprised. So I would say for any team that watches this, pick him up because he's lethal.
He's
Um,
too.
but I think, to be honest, I know we're South Florida and stuff here, but like this is the nightmare I was dreading.
Okay.
The reigning champions, the Golden State Warriors, picked up this dude. I forgot his name. I'm sorry if I don't remember his name, but
No,
this dude does everything. He can shoot threes, especially threes.
hmm
He's like 6'8", like 220, 230. He can dribble. He's like a bigger Jordan Poole. I'm like, oh God, Jesus,
a
no.
bigger Jordan Poole. But I'm telling you right now, especially with the Warriors. I mean, we said it multiple times on this podcast before. I mean, the Warriors are just like how they were in 2015, but instead of a veteran presence, it's a young core now. So they're just adding
Yeah,
on after this draft.
you got him on a rookie minimum, so it's like, oh God,
Yeah.
no, please don't
No,
do
yeah,
this to
but I
me.
think because I mean, I'm not going to stay on this topic for too long, but I mean, the Portland Trailblazers actually got a really interesting one. Shaden Sharp out of Kentucky. Now, for those who don't know his entire stories, he was a top 5 prospect coming out of high school. However, that was it, really. He went to Kentucky, didn't even play a single game on the collegiate level, and he ends up declaring for the draft, and he was a top 7 pick, going number 7 to Portland with the Trailblazers. So, I mean, where does this even put, Damian Lillard right now? I mean, does this make more that Damian Lillard might want to leave to know that, we have a guy that's more of a potential project than it is to win right now? I mean, where does this put the Trailblazers right now with him?
Before I answer that, I feel like I understand, the story you just said, right? He never played
Right.
the collegiate game, but he was like a big prospect. I find it kind of disrespectful that you give him you make him a first round pick, but yet you see all these other players put in the work, put in the games, all this stuff, and yet you just give this player that has not played a single game, and you give him a first round pick. I don't like that, to be honest. That's me. But for Damian Lillard's sake, just because of everything I just said right now, I would request nicely a trade. I would request a trade. I'm sorry.
Keyword nicely. You said nicely. So what we're talking about, trade to a specific location? Because
To be
David's been
honest,
talking about team up with KD. It could be possible now that
I think Kyrie is staying. And if let's say it does happen and Damian Lillard does want to get out, I think he would want to either team up with Embiid in the Philadelphia, probably LeBron because it's always LeBron. He's gonna have to try
right.
to get him on the west side. Um, and the Heat, who knows? They can probably make a package for Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero for Dame, and then give Jimmy Butler and Bam with Dame. That sounds nice to me.
Oh yeah. Plus, not even that. I mean, we already had a bunch of scenarios in our minds because the whole Kyrie Irving thing is going on. So just switch that out with Damian Lillard. It's almost the same caliber player. Obviously, different
Exactly.
skill type and all that, but still elite guards. But moving on from the draft, now we get to talk about, and this is actually from earlier today. We had a huge moment for the University of Miami's Hurricanes football program. A big pickup, the quarterback, 4 5 star guy,
Bang,
right?
bang, bang.
Out of California, Jaden Rashada, the quarterback, gunslinging mentality. The University of Miami ended up taking him away from guys who were, just about everywhere all over this kid. I mean, the University of Florida is one of them. Texas A&M is another one. And now the real thing about this is that a story has progressed itself. All right. Apparently, with NIL making its way to the
Yeah,
headlines of current storylines of college football,
yeah.
apparently there was a deal, I believe, of $9.5 million guaranteed for this kid to go to from a booster. I forgot the gentleman's name of that booster, but we'll keep it private just in case he wants to come up on this show. But
Yeah.
basically, this kid ended up taking $9.5 million from this booster, and the agent, specifically the NIL agent of this kid, who ended up committing to University of Miami, went on this article and said that basically the Gator Collective, which is part of the University of Florida, or not part of the University of Florida, but is associated with them, I believe, in some way as a collective, says that basically their collective is so mismanaged, so horrible, that I would never advise anybody to go over there just because of that, of their Gator Collective, the whole NIL stuff. And even as I talk about it now, it's hard for me to even fumble the words just because, I mean, the Gator Collective, yeah, sure, they represent a lot of much of what the football program is currently right now in this Wild West era of NIL. But at the same time, they're not part of the university. But sometimes, a lot of these deals are under the table. Some of them are just straight up with brokers for some of these kids going on to commit. And in reality, it's like, I mean, how can you not associate these collectives with the university's program? But before we go on to this, Jonka, I do
Mhm.
have a quote here from the Twitter of Jaden. So straight from the quarterback's words, and I quote, "Any report regarding my commitment to the University of Miami is false unless I was interviewed directly. All reports of my decision involving an NIL deal is inaccurate. I would never make a life/career choice for any monetary value. As I stated in my commitment live on TV, I chose Miami because of the relationship I have with the coaches, players, and the direction of the program is headed. I wish not to address the false reports again, as this is a time I wish to celebrate my college commitment and my commitment to my current team and teammates as we look forward to our dream of winning a state championship. At this time, I request no interviews. With all love, Jaden Rashada. Now, Giancarlo, as we just heard right now, new quarterback coming into the University of Miami, saying that he's specifically devoted and committed because of the new coaching staff, obviously, of Cristobal and the players of what's going on down there in Coral Gables. However, with all this NIL stuff going on, what are we to believe? What's your take on this right now in this situation?
Well, I would like to congratulate the University of Miami's football program for picking up another great player. And on another thing, on top of that, supposedly, what is it? Let me see here. I have it on my Twitter. Okay, here we go. 4-star wide receiver Nathaniel Joseph Jr. says if he decides to join Miami, it would be because of Rashada.
Yeah.
And then another 5-star wide receiver, Jalen Brown, says that he would also like to join Rashada in UM if he decides to go there. And then they also both said that it would be a 1-2 punch for Miami. So Miami's
bound to happen now.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, And the one thing Miami since Miami lost, what was his name? Mike Harley and what's his name? I forgot. He led the NCAA for UM. Oh my god, whatever. UM is on the come up right now, but for NIL deals, I understand that people are like, where's this money coming from? And all these players are getting these huge amounts of money. But I want to clarify that these companies are giving out money not to every single player. It's for certain players that obviously that they see potential in that can boost their brand. For example, and let's say Coca-Cola wanted to give $2 million to whatever, Archie Manning, right? And they say, okay, we'll give you $2 million to play for Texas. Okay, go for it. There goes Archie Manning to promote Coca-Cola, whatever, for his name, image, and likeness. But it would have nothing to do with the college except for him just being in the university. Maybe not directly involved with the college, but it's just like an acquaintance with it.
Right. More or less, you probably want to see it as a branch of the university, but not really associated with like the education part of it and the university's presidents and whatnot. But NIL is really confusing just to track right now. Especially from my end here at the University of Florida, a lot of the people on social media and around the street are saying that none of this is true. That the Gary Collective never even had this type of conversation, let alone even talk to a reporter of the person that made that article. But at the same time, it's hard to even make any sense of any of this because you're trying to tell me that this kid ended up making his decision off of a collective, right? Obviously, that wasn't it. As he said before, which we started off this topic, he obviously went to Miami because of what Coach Cristobal is doing. The whole change of the program over there at the U.
Huge change.
It's huge change. So, there's no surprise on, why he ended up going to the University of Miami. But I think the story itself just tarnishes the whole idea of it. You know what I mean? Because you would think it'll be like it's a huge win for UM. They were able to do this on their own. But at the same time, it's like, man, but what if the Gator Collective did better? You know what I mean? What if the Gator – and no offense to the Gator Collective or anything like that, but I think the last thing that a lot of these kids' minds, especially going from high school to college, is probably a couple $1 million on the table. Because right now, especially the 4-star, 5-star recruits, no matter where they go, a collective now will definitely give them more than $1 million tops. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. But, this is – I mean, I don't even know what to make sense of this because obviously the Gator Collective, for at least Florida State, I know of, is its own thing. A bunch of boosters just want to pay these athletes to go to university that isn't associated with, the coaches and anything like that. Because I mean, the main priority is that these kids going into the programs are not getting a paycheck from the university as if they're university employees. That's kind of one of the main thing for the NCAA, but it's all just a wild west, as I said before. I mean, there's no regulation from the NCAA. No one's authorizing anything of these deals. And the fact there's agents now, I mean, that's insane. I mean, imagine having an agent like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, makes sense. But what was I gonna say? Oh man, I blacked out.
Oh.
What was it? I don't want. What was it, man?
We'll wait. We got time.
Yeah, I just had it in my head. I just had it. Turning into Dory right now.
Oh my gosh! Don't even mention that. The movie Dory was actually not that bad. I actually saw.
I saw it. Yeah, it was good.
No, yeah, I actually saw someone who did a Pixar tier list. They said Dory was a C tier movie.
C tier? Nah.
C tier movie. Out of a tier that stars, of course, S, A, B, C tier movie.
Maybe B or A, but not C.
I don't know. But we're getting a little bit off track right now talking about Dory stuff. So.
Okay, what I was gonna say is Well, the thing about I gotta get this off my chest because not many people understand why I'm a little bit ticked off with the NIL deals. Well, not the deals in general, but just like the people surrounding it. Okay, so before this NIL stuff came out, the students were not allowed to get any compensation in any way for playing. Would you agree?
Of course.
Okay, we're agreeing on that one. Because my brother, me and him had a long argument, a long one. But so we agree with that, and then this year, all of a sudden now you can make money off of your name, image, and likeness NIL. If nobody that didn't know, anybody watching, name, image, and likeness, get it through your head. So all of a sudden, what ticked me off the most was Nick Saban, the head coach of Alabama, the one team that everybody raves about, starts coming out and saying, "Oh, this NIL deal stuff is not good for college football, and that these teams are just basically paying these teams illegally." I'm like, first of all, Nick, it's not illegal now. The school has nothing to do with the money because it's not the school's money; it's a corporation's money. They can give the student $100 million and it wouldn't matter because it's not your money. Second, what I find funny is the moment that Nick Saban starts to lose those 5-star recruits, those 4-star recruits, those people that he wants to continue to win those national championships are going to California, Texas, Florida, and nobody wants to play in Alabama anymore, really, to be honest. Even though they're still getting good recruits, but people are starting to realize that, you know what? I can make money and play for a state that has better living, I guess, areas like Miami, LA, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, San Antonio, whatever it is. So it's like, why would we want to play for Alabama, live in wherever it is, Birmingham, when they can just live in Miami, for example? It's like the difference. And I still get paid to play. And they have a new coach, a really good coach, good program. Their team is notarized as a franchise. You have all these things. So he just gets mad that the NIL deals are just messing up his flow, and then he starts accusing what's his name from Texas A&M,
Jimbo Fisher,
that he's the one also doing illegal stuff with NIL deals.
Yep.
So I don't know what you think about that. It's like it really ticks me off when this guy, a winning coach that I had respect for, now is like complaining the moment he starts not getting his way with these deals because
No, yeah. But I mean, one of the biggest things about it is that, I mean, he's like in his late 70s, you know what I mean? So obviously, Nick Saban, and if you didn't know, because I know there's a lot of people that don't know about, but they actually play in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Yes, not an
Yeah,
ideal place to be recruited at, but then again, you can say the same thing about Oklahoma Sooners and their program over there, who's
yeah,
ended up three Heisman winners in the past few years. So it's been impressive no matter where you are in the country. But again, you made a great point. Now with this NIL stuff, I mean, think about it. Southern Cal, got Caleb Williams over there right now playing quarterback. They're getting a lot of recruits over there for the Pac-12, probably winning it over Oregon right now, who is just plummeting down their recruitment. College Station for Texas A&M, the 12th
yep.
man, let alone Texas A&M. I mean, that's a hell of a university experience.
Number
Never
one in
been there in
recruiting
my
this
life.
year.
You said what?
They were number one in recruiting this year.
Number one in recruiting this year. And not even that, according to 24/7 Sports, the number one rated recruiting class to them. And
Yeah,
second of them was Nick Saban's Alabama. So my point I'm coming to right now, of course, Nick Saban probably complaining because now it's about the money and less about these kids getting an education on free scholarship and
and then
whatnot.
education.
But at the same time, you have to understand there's a lot of kids that go through all their life of football. Either that be from Pee Wee at 5 years old all the way to redshirt senior going into your early 20s playing straight football. A lot of these people get hurt. A lot of these people probably end up, going off and saying that, oh, while I'm doing football, I'm gonna get myself a little degree on communications, a
Yeah,
doctorate, so, become a lawyer, whatnot. But at the end of the day, I mean, people will go on to the NFL, get cut after their first year, and end up only making, still a great sum of money, but at the same time, imagine they did it during college. I mean, Johnny Manziel, we look at Johnny Manziel right now. He still does football. But at the
yeah,
same time, I guarantee you, during his years at Texas A&M as the head quarterback over there, Johnny Football definitely makes more money there in those years than he does so far over at the XFL or the AFL in Canada and whatnot. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things about this whole NIL stuff. That it's good that these players are now going to be able to get compensated for their name, image, and likeness.
yeah.
As we say those words again, I mean, be familiar with them because you're going to be hearing them a lot within the next couple of years. But I mean, Saban has a point. He does have a point. It's getting away from the education standpoint about it, and also, I mean, these players just might just be moving around every single year in the transfer portal. So again, going back to with the University of Miami, whoever that reporter was, no idea where he got his sources because either that's a headline now with bad information. I mean, I'm more baffled that this even is even a talking point, but in reality, it probably won't be the only one. It probably won't be the only one as more people look at NIL and collectives, which give these players these monies instead of the university. So we'll be looking more into collectives in the near future. But speaking of NIL, college football, and of course, the quarterback position, we have to talk about the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning going to
Yep.
University of Texas. If you do not know, now you know. Archie Manning will be a part of the Longhorns football program for his upcoming year in 2023, I believe. Now, again, Archie Manning, not really a huge guy on social media. He didn't do the whole hat flip thing. I even saw Peyton Manning talk about, he liked how he did it, just, in general, post it out there. Don't make a whole show about it. Don't say a top 5, top 6, or anything like that. But Archie Manning ends up going on Instagram and Twitter, and probably I think it's the first post he's ever done on any of those platforms, and just goes, I'm committed to the University of Texas, hook 'em. What is your take on that right now as Texas, who, again, Sam Ehlinger was pretty good over there for that 1 year. But besides that, I mean, Texas hasn't really been, around anywhere to a college playoffs. I mean, what does Archie Manning mean right now that you think to recruitment for Texas and if they even get to the college football playoffs?
Well, Texas. I actually wanted to go there once I
Hmm.
graduate. Maybe a little bit, maybe a couple of years. I wanted to actually go and go to that school because I've always I've always liked Texas, like the colors and stuff like that. So it's like, all
Oh,
right,
yeah, the
you know what,
brand.
I'll try it. So I was like, I was like, okay, you know what, They have a good football program. They're good at baseball. The city's really nice. It's like nice enclosed area. It's pretty cool. But for Archie, I don't know because even though Texas is on the come up a little bit on the recruiting class, I don't know because they've been off these last couple of years. So for Archie to come in and then just like, is he willing to wait 2 years of drafting of getting all these recruits just to maybe just make a bowl game? Because I don't see them. I see them not making the college football playoffs this year,
No,
and
of course.
nor next year, and then obviously the only four teams make the college football playoffs. So do I actually see Texas making it? Who knows? Maybe they do get some good big recruits. Who knows? But I don't see it happening. So I look at Archie's like I don't. I understand. Maybe you like Texas. Maybe you like the area when you visited it. You like the education, I guess. But I mean, over Alabama, over Oklahoma, which is like right legit, right next door to Texas.
Right.
You could have chosen UCLA or USC, which are also on the come up.
You should coast. You know what? You could have been to
Oh,
Florida, Texas
yeah,
A&M, Georgia. You overlooked Georgia.
Georgia would have been
So,
nice. Or Pittsburgh. They just lost Kenny Pickett.
well, okay, let's calm
Pittsburgh.
down. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. All
Hey,
right. We're not looking at the next Dan Marino. We're not looking at another huge Pittsburgh prospect. I kind of doubt that. But I mean, for me personally, for the whole Archie thing, I like the idea. The moment he liked it, it was the moment that he announced it. But at the same time, you know, when Archie goes play over there in Texas, during his time there, they will be an SEC team. Now, I feel like
yeah,
personally, the huge recruiting issues of Texas is probably just because in their state, Texas A&M is a part of the SEC, best football around for college, best. I mean, College Station is a phenomenal atmosphere, and it's always on national television because every SEC game is a primetime game. So I'm telling you right now, when Texas goes on to be a part of the SEC, 2 years within the SEC, University of Texas will be a top dog in recruiting. That's a guarantee. I believe that. I really do believe that. Now, with Archie Manning on the roster, when he gets over there to University, does he make them a playoff contending team? I think it's a better possibility than other people realize. I mean, Cincinnati did it with Rattler, right? All right. Think about that. Ohio State, Justin Fields, transfer kid from Georgia, went over there, made a huge progress jump, ends up, coming short in the championship game for the playoffs. But still, it's these random things that we see where quarterbacks either transfer or a crazy recruitment class that just flips the script. That's why I have Texas A&M on a high note going into this next season. But Archie Manning, especially now, because it's really early again in his draft class, the recruits can be piling in real
yeah.
quick. A lot of switch up commitments. You never know. I mean, the quarterback room in Texas is solid, even without Archie Manning. They have a couple other guys who are 5 stars. It just depends on, is the defense going to be there? Are they going to recruit more or less now to even protect Archie for that draft class, top O line that's available right now in high school? So, Texas as an SEC school when he comes in, I mean, it's going to be dangerous. I think more or less, better yet, it's probably going to be a guarantee that they're going to make at least a college football playoff appearance once with Archie Manning there.
In 4 years, no, when does he come in? When does he come in next
I
year?
believe he comes in not this year. He'll be a senior on the next school year. So it'll be the start of the 2023 season. I actually, not even that, I did hear, I don't know if this is the first game, but one of the games in his first ever freshman year will be against Alabama, actually.
Okay.
So he'll go against, I mean, and again, if he's going to be the starter his freshman year, I mean, Texas phenomenal, group over there in the quarterback room. But if he's the starter, we might see him against Nick Saban and that defense of Roll Tide that's always on the come up with first rounders being popped out here and there. So I'm just saying, I mean, he might be thrown to the fire, but he might do well in the SEC.
I see for when his decision to go to Texas, I wonder what he like. Did he go through the teams or who are the top teams in college right now? You say
Well,
Alabama, Georgia, Ohio
right,
State, probably USC,
Texas
um,
A&M.
Texas A&M. I think Miami is up there. Clemson is up there.
That's too
I per-
early. Any
that's
ACC team is too early.
Yeah, I know, but just based on like the schedule we're gonna have this year, and then the recruits that we have already for 2023, I see us going up a bit. So I'm putting Miami up there. Who else?
I mean,
There's
Southern
always a couple.
Cal.
Southern, okay, Southern Cal. I think North Carolina is a sleeper. A sleeper though. Sleeper.
I mean, they'll be ranked. They'll be ranked AP top 25. I don't know if they'll make college football noise. I don't know about that.
Well, that's like already like 8 or 9 teams right there. Now, do you see or do you see him really making the top 4 in any of those years that he plays?
Make it a
If the teams work, if those teams continue to grow, that are already ahead of him, already ahead of Texas.
well. I mean, before I even answer that, from those who forgot, LSU when they lost Joe Burrow and the entire, senior class that won it all in 2020. I mean, they were a horrible team to watch, especially in the SEC. I don't know if we're going to see that in Georgia. A lot of their class, especially defensively, I mean, they lost probably their spine on the defensive end for the
Yeah.
secondary as well. So, they might decline. Cincinnati, I don't know how long they're going to keep it up over there to make it to another college football playoff.
True.
But at the same time, Alabama's always going to be there. Texas A&M is only on the come up. Miami, again, Miami, Clemson, and even, the Tar Heels in North Carolina. It's an interesting situation. I just can't see it until I see it on the field that they can compete for a college football playoff spot. Because we always talk about UM, but at the same time, they haven't had I believe, a double-digit winning record for the past, I mean, God knows what. I think since like 2003 or something like that. I might be wrong on that, but
I think that first season with Mark Richt
yeah,
that
Mark Richt.
we went
Besides that, I mean,
undefeated
what else?
until the last season, till last week. I think we
No,
went
yeah.
11-2, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, besides of course that Mark Richt with Braxton Berrios and that phenomenal team we saw, but I mean, Archie Manning in Texas, being the SEC, the recruiting class will come in. Now, Archie, he's not going to be a bust. I can't believe I'm even have to say it right now. I'm probably the first one that's even bringing the question in there. He's not going to be a bust. I can only imagine he's going to be phenomenal. His body type is almost like Joe Burrow, but he's more or less more athletic than him, and he's real accurate deep ball wise. So I feel like Texas, they have the pieces. The only thing they can screw up in right now is the coaching, is the whole program as a whole. And I mean, it's not the players, it'll be the internal part of that football program over there in Texas. So, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, unless they explode inside internally, they're going to make the playoffs. I see no reason why.
Do you think so? And what year do you think he'll make the playoffs?
Ooh, a year.
Because I honestly don't think it'll happen.
Okay.
Because I gotta say, because let's say we all know Alabama is most likely gonna be in the playoffs every single year.
Right.
Okay, so that's one. So we have 3 spots left.
Okay.
Who do you
So,
think out of those 3 spots if they continue, the teams like obviously every team is gonna get better every year. Every team's gonna get better. Okay, so if we agree that the first 2 years he probably won't make the playoffs, would you agree with that?
well, I mean, because most likely, I feel like he's not going to start his first year. So I can't imagine him automatically making the playoffs within his second year. I think maybe his third year will put it at it because
Okay, so
Alabama will be there. Georgia's on the decline, but they're still a great team. We have no idea what's going to happen over there with the Trojans in Southern Cal. Again, Lincoln Riley's over there now with Caleb Williams and probably the rest of the West Coast. It's probably going to be recruited straight out of that university. Might do something. Florida might even do something. And I mean, Notre Dame is still with Oklahoma State. I
Notre Dame
forgot
is always a
Oklahoma
good team.
State. I mean, there's a lot of great teams out there, but the first 2 years, I don't believe so. But his last year before he goes on to the draft, I feel like he has one of those years where it's like, this kid is the number 1 pick and he's showing us why in this lone season. Kind of like how, again, I hate to make the comparison, but like a Joe Burrow last season, number one pick in his draft class, just because of what he did for his last season for the LSU Tigers. So I'm just saying, I expect him to make the playoffs, but it won't be his first year. So if it's his second year, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm just saying, it depends how soon he starts.
I think everybody's hyping him up a little bit too much. I think he's going to be an average to a little bit above average quarterback because he has to live up to the Manning name.
Mm.
And I think the bar is set so high that, and especially on a team right now in Texas, that they're recruiting and their team right now isn't where it should be if you want him to make it to the playoffs. So you said not the first year, since he might not play the first year. The
Right.
second year, probably not. You're saying probably the third. But
Oh,
since they were going to be in the SEC, they're going to be playing much harder teams. And most likely, if you lose 2 games, you're basically out. You have to be an incredibly overpowered team to even make the playoffs if you have 2 losses.
that is true. That is true.
So if they play Alabama or if they play Georgia or Ohio State, any of those 3 teams, they lose and then they'll probably have another loss within the conference. They're already out. They're basically already out. So you think about it, it's like, there are a lot of good teams in football right now for college,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like not all of them, they can all have good teams and good players, but only 4 teams can make it.
That is true. But I'm just saying it's a real possibility. But to end it off, Peyton Manning, Tennessee, Eli Manning, Ole Miss, Archie Manning, Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. We'll have to see for the future. But to end off this episode, we're going to talk about Kyrie Irving and this recent information. However, about a minute ago, this was reported. And this is actually a Woj bomb from Adrian Wojnarowski.
Oh, is
And I
it
see you got it too. So it shows here from sources, John Wall is planning to sign with the Los Angeles Clippers once he clears waivers from a buyout from the Houston Rockets to become an unrestricted free agent. So if this does happen again, this is a Adrian Wojnarowski who usually gets it right. He's always going back for shams. So John Wall joining Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and again, most likely a full healthy roster for those 3 because they obviously have dealt with injuries for the past few seasons. I mean, what's our first reaction, Jonka? What's our first reaction about this huge news? A big 3 in the West Coast that's not on the Lakers.
If John Wall could just set aside his ego and play the 1 or the 2 with Reggie Jackson. So Reggie Jackson, John Wall, PG-13, and Kawhi with, I guess, Zubac at the 5.
Yeah, and whoever else you want.
Yo, the Lakers better watch out, bro.
It'll be tough. It'll be tough, man. I'm telling you.
Oh my God, Jesus. Okay. I'm just happy because whenever I see the Lakers, bad news for the Lakers, I smile.
Yes, God bless. I'm glad ever since 2020, Heat and Celtic fans have been somewhat closer because of that. Bro. I'm telling you. I mean, a Laker pack is the best pack. So right now, John Wall is probably going to be, joining with Los Angeles Clippers by, I believe, July 1st. That's when everything rolls over into the new NBA season. But again, for at least what we see right now, a John Wall, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. The only question is, will they be healthy for a full year? Is loaded management going to be messing around right now with Tyronn Lue and his head coaching staff? Because he has to be strict and strong because Adam Silver is not letting go of these players to miss out on these contracts. Again, all the questions need to be answered for next season, but John Wall will most likely be a Los Angeles Clipper coming up soon for what seems to be his 3rd saga in his career. But now, got that breaking news out of the way. As crazy as it is, we still have to stay focused to end off this episode. Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving, if you haven't known, let me actually look up the specific details right now. Coming straight out of Shams himself, the Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving is opting into his $37 million player option for the 2022-2023 season. Now, Kyrie Irving bypassed on multiple opt-in trade scenarios to fill his 4-year commitment to the Nets and Kevin Durant. So, in other words, it means that, a lot of speculation if he was even going to re-sign and then go off with a trade in, trade out. But in reality, from a lot of the situations that were going on, the Lakers offered Russell Westbrook and a couple of first rounds for Kyrie. The Nets didn't even pick up the phone call, right? No one else was even looking for Kyrie for their roster spot to fill in, to let alone, the Miami Heat, especially the Miami Heat, talking about, Tyler Hero might be gone for Kyrie. Duncan Robinson added on with Bam Adebayo might be gone for Kyrie. The Brooklyn Nets tried everything they could, but looks like Kyrie Irving, looking at all his options, will not be leaving Brooklyn. And again, from this is what we're seeing right now with him taking that $37 million player option for Brooklyn. So what does this mean for Miami?
I have a tweet here I saw on Twitter by Florida Sports Buzz. I don't know if you follow them or not. And also NBA Central also, they quoted them, said that supposedly the Heat were not currently willing to give up its top assets to acquire Kyrie Irving. So they were in the works. But I think listening off these players right here, the Brooklyn Nets were on crack. They were either high when they ordered it because they wanted Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and Tyler Hero for Kyrie Irving. I'm not tripping.
They had the audacity. Wow, show the camera.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be a blockbuster trade. That, you know what I think? I would rather have the Miami Heat trade for Kevin Durant with those people than even consider Kyrie Irving. That is outlandish what Brooklyn's asking for. But then again, for a superstar, you want superstars' talent being traded back. So for Brooklyn, Sean Marks, the front office probably had the right idea to continue this, potential, contending run for Brooklyn. But, the show's over after this season. Who knows if Kyrie even wants to resign with the Nets, go somewhere else. And Kevin Durant, what's the toll in KD's mindset right now? Because he's looking at this scenario more than anybody else under a microscope. We talk about a little bit here and there in trade talks. What about KD's possibility going to the Miami Heat in South Beach?
I see if Kyrie would have left, I think our chances would have been higher because he would have probably wanted to decide to leave. Right. But seeing that Kyrie has stayed, he's going to stay the course for the year with Ben Simmons. I think Kevin Durant's like, okay, he's staying for one more year. We're going to try this out. If it doesn't work out, then we can all leave happily ever after, unrestricted. And then they can go their separate ways. So I see Kevin Durant staying unless something happens. I don't know. But I think he stays with those three. They try to see if they can do something this year. Hopefully, they do something. But if not, then I will say this right now. The 2023 free agent. Oh, it's gonna be Kyrie. Oh, Kevin Durant, Embiid. Oh God, jeez, no, don't even. It's LeBron James. Oh jeez, my God. The Heat. This is when the Heat right now should be looking for play. I think the Heat should just tank this season.
Tank.
I think the Heat should tank.
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know about that, man.
Because let's be honest here. Let's be honest. The Heat with this roster right now ain't winning shit. Excuse my language, but they ain't winning shit. Right now, they don't have a center. They don't have a play like an MVP caliber player. There's no way this roster is gonna repeat whatever they did this playoffs. Every team has gone better, but them. I don't know. I just felt like their motivation dipped after losing that. They're not getting rid of Udonis Haslem, which I've said it on multiple occasions.
I don't even understand it at this point.
I got into a heated ass argument on Twitter, a Twitter beef with some random person saying that, why you should respect what Udonis Haslem's done for the team. Yeah, I respect what he's done for the team, but there's no reason the way he should be sitting down on the roster spot when he can just be a coach sitting next to Pat Riley and looking to see who can pick up, who can they bring to Miami instead of just like sitting there taking up a salary. Maybe that extra
Howard, when he was with the Miami Heat and then he ends up going from player to coach, I mean, he was a huge piece of a lot of
Yeah,
those great teams for Miami that ended up going on to be, you know, a player kind of development type of guy. Now he's the
yeah,
head coach for Michigan. I mean, in reality, Udonis has him if he wanted to. I mean, he can easily, find a way to be on that assistant coach's bench easily.
yeah, 100%. And then plus, like the same thing for Alonzo Mourning. Like he could be doing the same exact thing, but there's no reason you could possibly tell me why he should be on the bench, taking up a spot, getting paid a salary for not to play when all he does is motivate. I can motivate too, and you can pay me $10 an hour, and I'd
Yeah,
still do it better than he would.
I know. Not even that. I mean, probably when you motivate at the games, you have to pay a whole $100, $70, whatever it is, again, the 400 near the MJ jersey, which I
Bro,
don't even
I don't.
know, but
It's just. I feel like I'm telling you right now, if the Heat don't re just don't sign him again. I'm sorry. It's like I know at some point it's like when do you get rid of the guy? Like when do you just tell him no? I'm sorry. We can't do it anymore. Or like there's no point of you here. Like you just if you want to be a coach, we'll give you a coaching job easily, but we can't waste the roster spot anymore.
no, you can't. Plus that, not even that. I mean, that's a couple million, couple thousand that they need. So the Miami Heat, instead of leaving the Udonis has them talk right now. Just post on a farewell and thank you for what you've done for us organization type of IG post for UD. Leave it at that, and then just go on your happy way. Tell UD, hey, if you like, we have a free seat for you every single game. It's a Chris Bosh, but that's about it. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
probably about it.
But wouldn't
But
it be nice for this current coming up season, 2023 season, they do a farewell tour or farewell thing for every Heat game that Udonis plays. They do some sort of event for him, right?
yeah,
For his final year, and then he becomes a coach, right? At the end of the season, and then he helps the Heat recruit players to Miami, right at the end of the season because
I mean, I don't know because the thing is though, if we're having a farewell tour, it's gonna be hard to have a farewell tour on the bench, not taking any minutes.
it, so that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, guys, this is my last run. Okay, you know what? And he'll probably play the last game, the whole game, probably or whatever, just for the fuck of it.
No, yeah, I mean, just to get out of the way.
Like
But
he ruined Dwayne Wade's last game at home. I was there.
ah,
Dwayne Wade was like legit on fire, cracked out of his mind. He wasn't missing, and they're going to go because everybody was supposed to be thinking that Haslam was going to retire too with
right.
Wade, and then so there goes Haslam chucking up threes, thinking like, oh, okay, he's gone too,
And
but
taking away the shots from D Wade.
yeah, it's like it was D Wade's show. Like if like, okay, you know what, whatever, yeah, let's give him a couple shots because we thought he was gonna retire too. But if you weren't gonna retire, bro, you kind of fucked up his night. It's like
Yeah, not and actually speaking on the D Wade final tour, the fact they ended it off in Brooklyn
yeah,
and not in the AAA at the time. I mean that was I thought that was just a dirty thing, man. I thought that the least
facts.
you can do is swap it up because it wasn't like Miami making playoffs. It wasn't like Brooklyn was making playoffs. So just swap it real quick. But just sticking from what you said actually, because I want to stick on this because you said the Miami Heat should tank. Looking at the free agents for next year, of course, we mentioned Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and whoever superstar that you could probably think of will probably be unrestricted next season. But I'm telling you right now, the Miami Heat, they were a win away from an NBA Finals berth. All right, I think the Miami Heat themselves, they're fine as they are. They just need to grow together more. Kyle Lowry, and I'll be vocal about this. Kyle Lowry, if there's going to be another trade, if there's going to be anybody moving off this Heat roster, it'll probably be Kyle Lowry. He was inconsistent throughout this entire playoffs. And honestly, the moment that you guys picked him up, I thought for a fact that you guys were going to be on fire from 3-point besides whatever Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero were doing because he's one of the most consistent guys behind the mark. So obviously that didn't happen. And Kyle Lowry is just like, later years of his career, just looking for fouls everywhere he goes, just, going over and looking back and, bumping into guys. I mean, it's definitely not the way you play basketball in today's game. You're just hunting for fouls. That's really what I see it. That Kyle Lowry in his part of the career is hunting for fouls, really, not even moving the ball around. So, but again, Heat should not tank. The East will always get better every single year. And believe me, as a Celtic fan, and see Milwaukee get better every single year. I've seen obviously Brooklyn and the Philadelphia 76ers out of nowhere, just a trade changing their franchise for the rest of a season. So again, Miami, they're just maybe one piece, one swap away, but the roster looks fine how it is right now. See what happens this year, but they're not going to be out in the first round. The second round depends, of course, how next year looks like, but they're not a first round exit team anymore. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna guarantee you this right now, Brandon. Guarantee 100% satisfaction. No returns because you don't have to return it.
Okay.
If the Heat don't get rid of Haslam, they will never win in the next decade. I'm telling you this right now. They will not win a championship in the next decade. From now to 2030, they will not win a championship if they continue with this.
But we're talking about UD for the team for a decade. We're talking about UD on the team for a decade, though.
I think UD is the reason we lost to the Lakers. I think you like you say that your problem was height, right? They said that the Heat were too small against for the Lakers in 2020 in the bubble, right?
Right.
Yeah, UD is a 7-footer and he's a veteran and has experience. You don't put him in, right? You have Myers Leonard. He was ready to play. You didn't play him either. So it's like the Heat always they come up with these excuses. Oh, but they're for the team, right? They motivate the players. I don't care. I want people to give me production.
Put somebody on the court. At least somebody.
I don't even care if he's a rookie that's from, Scandinavia that hasn't played a single minute in his life. But if he could give you more minutes than UD can, then please, put him out there.
Hey, we might see that right now with their, again, we're talking about Jokic. He could do that. So we might be seeing the later days of, UD walking out the door right now. So, but, again, to get back on topic, because I know I wanted to speak on that for the Miami Heat's sake, but Kyrie Irving going to his player option, and now John Wall, a potential threat in the Western Conference as he joins the Los Angeles Clippers with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are most likely will be healthy for the upcoming season. So we end up, going through everything right now, about an hour podcast. Of course, we're missing Daniel, but I mean, we're a hell of a duo, man. We went through an hour. We covered a lot, man.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for college football to start so that we can get it.
I needed to start, man. Especially over here in Gainesville, first game against Utah Utes. And then, of course, UM. I mean, you got to see
College Station. I can't wait for that game. It's
going to be too good. Can't miss TV. But we'll be seeing you guys on next Monday. Thank you for joining in again. And as always, Plug Talk Sports, look at our articles, and we'll be right back with you next week.